Welcome to this Rainbow Map reflection session with me, Andrew Thomas, and a colleague who is integrating the Rainbow Map and perhaps other tools and concepts from the trigger-orientated therapy website into the work. I may have mentioned this before, but I'm not that comfortable talking directly to the camera. So please bear with me while I get the introduction done. Things will get more interactive in a couple of minutes. Sorry, but I better get the legal stuff out of the way first. I've made the tools and concepts I've developed available through the trigger-orientated therapy website and companion YouTube channel without any paywall, and accept no liability for how you choose to use them in your work or directly in your life. There is also a terms and conditions statement at the top of the launch page for this module on the trigger-orientated therapy website. So moving on. If you're already using the Rainbow Map, then this and other reflection sessions will hopefully generate new insights and ideas for you. If you are new to the Rainbow Map, then these sessions are intended to help you further your understanding of this tool and if and how it might be of use to you and your clients. You're also very welcome if you're a member of the public interested in knowing more about the human system and the world of psychotherapy and counselling. For the psychotherapists and counsellors sharing their experience with us, my hope is that the session is both enjoyable and an opportunity to take a little time out to reflect on the role the Rainbow Map plays in the work they do, and perhaps even open up new thoughts and ideas that might be useful afterwards. I would like to emphasise that those who participate in these sessions have been asked to generalise their reflections and not talk about individual clients to protect confidentiality unless they have received permission. If we don't cover questions or reflect on areas that interest you or you just want to dig deeper, then I'm happy to participate in a 1-hour Zoom-based question and answer and reflection session free of charge. If you can get 10 or more people who have watched a trigger-orientated therapy module together, then we can arrange a date and time to suit your time zone. So without any further ado from me, let's get started.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here, Andrew. Thanks for inviting me. My name's Matt Hyde, and I run a little company called Elephant Counselling in Exeter. Humanistic, person-centred initially, but incorporating very, very rapidly the workings of the Rainbow Map into my modality.
And what sort of clients do you work with? In what situations are you working, Matt?
I'm lucky enough to be ranged from 8 to 80, individually, one-to-one. But also I was a teacher for 20 years and just can't leave the school thing alone. So I'm working in schools, I'm working with groups, I'm working with couples outside of the school environment, and also working in workplaces. So I'm fortunate enough to have a forward-thinking CEO of a company locally who invites me in once a week to talk to some of his employees.
Oh, wonderful. And so in this session, we might touch on your work as a school counsellor. Maybe you've touched or told me a bit. You're working in, is it camps or is that in the summer all year round with groups of young people?
It's turned into an all year round venture, but yeah, I'm working closely with a guy that runs High Five sports camps in Plymouth, and he was very, very keen to introduce a well-being culture on top of all of his high octane activities that he already delivers. So it's been a nice thing to work collaboratively with them too.
So, and what size of groups would you, because I know you work with the Rainbow Map in those situations, what size of groups are you working with in that type of situation?
Yeah, that varies. It's always double figures, but has been as large as 20. But yeah, done in circle time where children are introduced to it, but also now because I've worked there a couple of years, children are quite familiar with it too.
So I suppose during this session you're going to be putting different hats on as you talk about things. So I mean, the first question I've got is, what causes you to introduce the Rainbow Map?
What I've found over time is it's acted primarily as a catalyst for conversation. it's not there in somebody's face as soon as they arrive. It's not something that I just say, hi, I'm Matt from Elephant Council, look at my rainbow. It's something that's introduced very gradually if the need arises. And in my experience of using the rainbow map between the ages of 8 and 80, it can just prove to be a prompt for those people that are struggling initially to be able to describe or explain. And simply with the ability to maybe point to a color or to suggest that they're feeling particularly red or particularly purple when it's been explained to them has formed a really nice chance to start a conversation.
So in the context of, say, your school counselling work as a schools counsellor, what I know there may be lots of reasons, but if there's any typical thing, what might cause you to introduce it to one of the young people you work? Because I'm assuming that's largely individual work, is it?
Yeah, so it ranges in schools. So individual work on a one-to-one basis, but also I deal with exam groups for stress, or I deal with groups struggling with behaviour. So it's very, very broad. Introduce one-to-one, it's a slower process and probably a more thorough and a little bit kind of at more depth, because it warrants that. The ability for a child to be able to access it through good explanation enables those conversations to start.
So does that mean that you'll prepare them maybe at the session before, or will you just stick it on the table and say, hey, what do you think of this? Or how would you do it with a young person in that situation?
Yeah, a little bit like this interview now, Andrew. It's never far away.
Yeah.
So it's always close to hand. And unlike my years as a teacher, where you went in with a lesson plan to deliver, this certainly isn't delivered as a lesson plan. It's just it just floats about the place. And often when you meet clients for the first time or groups for the first time, it's really quite nice just to have it around to refer to it. And I always refer to myself as somebody that tends to go purple, and a lot of individual personal experiences. I put myself onto the map to explain basically how it works and how it might pop into future sessions, or how we might refer to it.
And what would be the telltale signs, you think? If you're working with an individual, what would be the telltale signs that would say, oh, I might introduce the rainbow map? What might be going on or happening for that person?
I think my ability to see the eyes light up is a massive giveaway, or there's an ability to take the pressure off of a young person who's not able to find the words, or doesn't know the words, or doesn't want to tell you the words associated with possibly how they're feeling. But I think it's a really lovely icebreaker with the children and young people that I work with, just to be able to call it in colours, just to be able to call it in terms of they tend to go red or they tend to go purple.
But there are some situations where you don't use it and some situations where you do. I mean, am I hearing you say the situations where you do, maybe they're struggling to express themselves, or something else?
Absolutely. It's almost an inability or a reluctance to be able to share, like some clients do, can just go straight in with exactly how it is they've been feeling. And I do talk to lots of kids that are able to be able to talk like that immediately. Boom, they're straight in. This rainbow dimension to my counselling modality just enables the softer a touch, and just to maybe say, okay, well, how about looking at it this way? You know, you can't find the words, but how would you describe yourself as a colour? And sometimes I would just leave it there as a floating notion of no explanation at all. And they go, what do you mean a colour? And then the rainbow map would come out. And I said, well, for example, if we described you at your best as being green in the middle of the map, do you tend to go red, or do you tend to go purple? What's red and purple? And then you can just kind of drip all the information on at the pace of the child, in terms of their interest, or also in terms of the pace of their reluctance. So it's kind of, it's just dripped in. There's no kind of one size fits all. It just happens in layers, I guess.
I can't tell you how rewarding it is for me to hear you talk about this, you know, because developing this tool and to think that it's being used and evolved, because you're using it in ways that I never thought of, or not that I should, and I find that so really incredibly motivating. So anyway, sorry, I'm just, but then so basically, if there's a young person who's expressing themselves fine, they're getting through it, there's no need to bring this out, is there? Just let them go for it. But if there's a bit of struggle there, then maybe this will enable them to express themselves. I was always a bit surprised when I developed this and started delivering the online workshops. I was always surprised how many person-centered therapists came, because I thought, oh, this is going to appear too structured. But it doesn't turn out like that, from what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. At the start of my course, I was person-centered, and that was it. No one was changing me. It was just humanistic. It was person-centered. How do I possibly know what's going on in somebody else's life more than they do? And they will just talk if they want to, if they need to. I think if somebody asks me again now, Andrew, how I practice, I'd just say I'm rainbow. and it's possible. It's not the only way that I work, but it gives my humanistic work a framework. It gives it a reference point, or it gives it a catalyst for conversation when people are scratching their head and trying to find the words that they know are in there. And if that in essence starts with talking through feelings as a color, well, let's go for that. I totally get what the colors mean. You totally get what the colors mean. Well, let's deal with that as a start point, and then the words will come, the sensations will come.
And then, how do the columns work in that situation? What do they do then? How do you find it?
So in time, the columns come in when the columns are ready to come in.
Yeah.
So me knowing that there are sensations and thoughts and emotions and feelings. Yeah. It's almost kind of another extra layer of depth that you can say, okay, so how do you behave when you are orange? You feel as if you're on your way down towards purple and you're probably blue or violet. What feelings do you get then? And it's almost lovely for them almost to stop somebody in their tracks by elongating the color scale from green click red or green click purple, to then be able to say, notice that actually there are a lot of feelings in between, and that gets played in.
And you mentioned working with groups of students doing exams around anxiety. How do you work with it in those situations?
Very, very much the same. And in those groups, it's really quite nice to work in an open forum where obviously it's contracted that you share if you would like to share, but if you wouldn't like to share, then obviously just think about it, take notes, or work in the way that you would like to. but the openness of an exam group, all feeling the same feelings, almost gives an ownership and a feeling of, actually, I'm not the only one that feels like this, or how exams make people feel angry, or how exams make people feel depressed or unable to engage. All of those points enable the children to be able to go, I didn't realize that you felt like I feel the same. And the conversations then that start away from the facilitator are probably better than the ones from the facilitator.
And what role is the rainbow map playing in that outcome, would you say?
Yeah, it's integral.
Sorry if that sounds a bit of a leading question, and maybe it doesn't, but sorry about that.
And no, not at all. That this stuff works, and that's the wonderful thing about this, is it's integral in all of the sessions that I've done for a reference point for these kids to point to, or at least get, actually, yeah, I go red or I go purple. And the conversation, we have breakout groups where the kids then start talking about it, where purple on purple chat to each other, or purple on red talk to each other.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. And
you actually shift the groups around depending on how they identify.
For sure, with no hard and fast way. It's just kind of like, you guys can pair up, or in the same session, some red on reds and some red on purples will have the conversation. And
will they all have a copy of the rainbow map, or will you start off with a big sort of?
Absolutely. Yeah. So everybody gets one, and everybody sees one.
And how easy do they find it to get it? Or
on the most part, they get it like that. From my experience of using it between 8 and 80, the kids get this quicker than the adults. And my experience, my learning of using the rainbow stuff with the children and young people I'm fortunate enough to work with is they've taken it to another level on top. So, for example, when I do a check-in and we go round and I've contracted and kids go, well, I'm purple or I'm red or never thought about it, I think I'll come back to me, and you go round. Some people say that they are both. And I say, okay, hold that, and we'll come round. And they say, I'm purple at school, I'm red at home. I'm red when somebody's red to me. Or the emotional awareness that these kids, when there's a reference point to use, is just really, really fascinating where they are both. They do experience both. It depends on whether they've been made angry. It depends on whether they've been left out. It depends on what's happened on social media. All of these things, exams, behavioral units, all these kids are just explaining exactly how they've interpreted the colors. And I think the wonderful thing about the rainbow is it's not fixed. How it emerges and how it goes into each other just allows the kids to interpret the color scale and use it for their own benefit. Well, now they've got a conversation starter while they're in their room.
So it's sort of getting into their home lives as well. That time, I mean, if you were to summarize in the young people work at school that you're doing, I mean, therapeutically, what type of outcomes do you think you're noticing them experience?
It's akin to letting the lid out. It's akin to these kids getting how they felt and not being able to explain it. So some kids are articulate and some kids can find the words, and some kids are in tune with themselves immediately. A lot of these children are not, or haven't been, or with what we've just all gone through in the last couple of years, there's an inability or there's a reluctance. I think there's a reluctance to be able to describe accurately. But what the rainbow does is it gives an incredibly simple yet very, very powerful reference point. It gives a point, you can touch. You don't even have to say your color. You know, some of the children I get to see are reluctant to even talk at times until they get to know this face a little bit better, and they're a little bit more open to conversation. But there's a kind of a point where they can look down. I'm looking down at one now, and they can point to where they are, and they can just nudge or just kind of gesture. Or the sports camp I'm doing in Plymouth, alongside the colors, Ben's company is called Hyde. So we've got 2 thumbs up, 1 thumb up, thumbs in the middle, 1 thumb down, 2 thumbs down. So on camp, we've got a standardized level of color. So we all know what the colors mean. We've got standardized gestures. But now the work on the camp is now starting to look on bespoking words for that, bespoking your sensations for that. They know how they are. And if
in the camp, we sort of moved on to that camp work with groups. I mean, first of all, what sort of age groups are those people you're working with?
Yeah, so the very, very youngest there are 5.
Oh, really?
The oldest there are 14, 15.
And how are you working and using the rainbow map in that environment? Because it's a non-school environment. It's a sort of is it residential?
It's not residential.
So it's day. Then.
It's a day camp, and the wonderful journey we've been on is the kids are amazing with this stuff. The coaches who've been asked to be aware of the rainbow, because I go in and deliver some sessions, and then the rainbow notion is on camp for them to use. It's well-being. It's not counselling, but it's just a reference point. I've got one of our little business cards.
Oh, right, you've got it on there.
That they have on their lanyard.
Yeah.
So the coaches have a lanyard, and they've just got the colour rainbow on there. And at any point in time, if a young man's taken objection to the fact that he's been given out in dodgeball and he's had a moment, then a conversation about this stuff can just start. You know, where are you? Exactly.
You know, I've told one of the other therapists, relationship therapist, who's done a reflection session. She says some of her clients take it away, reduce it, and make it into a business card size, like you, as a reminder. You know, so how interesting.
Yeah, and I think the wonderful thing about making this an on-site culture where it's referred to, that the kids the kids are using the gesture. A camp coach would say, Andrew, are you all right? And they would go, okay. And then it could be a chat, or they're not a chat, or how are you feeling? And they might start using colors, which has been this year's development. But the coach feedback, it's been something that they've described as something that they can use alongside everything else that they've got to do. They've got a lot of setting up to do, a lot of inflatables to blow up, a lot of Nerf gun bullets to collect, etc., etc. But this stuff is happening alongside it, not in addition to it. And they're using the reference points and the colors just so naturally and easily, just to diffuse stuff, or for a kid to be able to explain they've had a bust up or they've come onto site.
But what I'm hearing is with your understanding of, that you call it the rainbow map, and it is they're relating to it and they're connecting with it, and then your awareness and knowledge is sort of adding to that. It's a sort of a conversation, a catalyst for conversation. That's what I'm hearing between you.
100, yeah, absolutely. And my role in the development or ongoing development of the use of it is I'll do a camp visit every summer, every holiday, every Easter, to give the kids there a little bit of a flavor in terms of how it then works at camp, at home, at school, with friends. And the nice little flavor that we've given it is, one of the explanations that the kids can tie into is, am I green click red, or am I green click purple? Meaning the fuse in between is very, very short, or I don't experience anything except feeling okay and then feeling red or feeling purple. So what we've used is an analogy using elastic bands, where people who are green click red have put their elastic band in the fridge overnight. They've got it out and they've given it a stretch and it's just snapped, giving that green click red or green click purple.
How interesting. Yeah.
But what we've suggested is, if we use this stuff a lot and we're aware of it, or we've taken the fridge out the elastic band and we've warmed it up, then the stretching of that elastic band then allows some light green feelings, maybe some yellow and some orange in there, and some
what dark. A lovely, wow, what a wonderful analogy.
And they buy into it. Buying into it sounds like you're trying to sell it to them. It's not even a sell. The eye contact, and they go, oh yeah. And then one of the children on the camp then suggested, so maybe from there to there, maybe I've got this. So all of a sudden there's a 7-point scale or a 9-point scale of emotion that some of these kids can access. But they get it. They do. I tend to go red if somebody's red with me, or I tend to go red.
And what about the trigger cycle side of it? Does that ever play a part in what you do, say, with individuals at the school, or in your exam groups, or in the workshops, these day workshops?
Yeah, and we talk about how long the emotional hangover can last for. For example, there's one lad that I talked to at a local school, and if things go badly in period 1, his bespoke word or bespoke phrase for red is, what's the point? So if he's messed up the day in period 1, what's the point? And it will be a bad day. So we've decided that his trigger cycle is hours. It's 5 hours, or could be grumpy when he's at home as well. Some kids on the sports camp, if they're given out in dodgeball, which can be a very inflammatory reaction, obviously, they're able to come out and go down and be ready for swimming, which is period 2, or they'll be able to just go, actually, I'm back into the next game of dodgeball. So the speed of how the children are talked to come out of the unhelpful colours.
So for that young chap who went to 5 hours, so being aware, before that he just was whatever he was. Are you sort of saying, again, maybe I'm a bit leading here, sorry, but he's now got, oh no, this is me, I'm 2 hours into this is what happens to me. This is how I trigger. What role, how does that therapeutically, what use is that, do you think?
Well, what we've discussed with this young man is, so if it's gone, I use the term, if it's gone smelly in geography, which was one of his subjects he didn't particularly like, why does it need to be smelly in science? Why does it then need to be smelly in drama, the smelly in art? And then so we've then broken down the trigger cycle into periods of the day where are there refresh points? Are there points where things can start descending? Can you, it's the same guy that mentioned about the yellow on the way up and the yellow on the way down. Are you able to reset in order for that just to be a blip rather than a day of carnage? Because all of a sudden an exclusion can happen because he wouldn't take his jumper off in period one, when actual facts, let's just stop that there. It went badly in geography. You were asked to leave, quite rightly. But then if you're allowed to come back into drama, which is period two, that's a fresh start. And we've just been exploring those incremental trigger cycles that obviously there's latent feeling, but the introduction of the ability to actually not have to write the whole day off because he's looking for the perfect day.
Okay,
Is an ability to just go fine.
I should stress here, I mean, the way you're talking about some individuals, but my understanding is these are sort of like general themes you're getting at. You see repeatedly, you know.
Yeah.
So
and quite without interrupting now, I think people who would be watching this that have got dealings in school or educational environments or with young people, these wonderful characters are getting themselves excluded for not having a pen. Well, they're not getting excluded for not having a pen or not taking their jumper off or having the wrong PE kit. It's the escalation that then happens, leading to probably a chair being chucked or a few choice words being aimed in the direction of the teacher, which has got them excluded. But the ability to come down the scale or notice where you are for exit cards to be used or conversations to be had are really helpful.
Well, you're sort of maybe getting towards, does the trigger flag concept play any role in what you're talking about? So you're sort of saying you're helping them notice themselves, and then through noticing themselves, being able to activate resources that you've worked on with them or they've developed themselves.
I think notice is the biggest word I use, using this and using my work with children and young people.
Yeah.
As you say, so how is it for you when you're in Orange? You know, how well, I don't know. Well, you know, what do you notice? Well, I just don't know. Well, I think it'd be great, really quite helpful if we start noticing, you know. And I said sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you won't be able to because red's really unhelpful, and you probably won't notice anything except red when you're in red. But on the way up, using gears or using volume or using temperature or using whatever we might do, notice the difference. Notice how orange is not quite red, or notice how yellow is slightly worse than green, or how green and all of a sudden that noticing stuff, you with that elastic band analogy, you're filling in the gaps in between. And I've developed what I've called trumpet sheets as opposed to trombone sheets. So I refer to the rainbow map as a trombone sheet, just simply because one color just slides into the next. And that concept initially for some of these kids is quite a hard one to get. Well, I don't know how it goes into the next one. But reaching behind me, what I've managed to do is I've managed to produce some sheets which kind of just sections colors off.
Yeah.
So we've got kind of distinct,
fantastic,
like trumpet notes. So green, light green, yellow, orange, red. So they're different notes that don't slide into each other. But then when we get to a deeper level, or kids get this a little bit better, we just kind of say, well, it's not as if you kind of just go, right, I'm now yellow. You just slide in, or can you notice?
Do you know what, Matt? You've absolutely settled for me, because at times over the years, I've wondered, because at one point, especially in 2018, when I was starting to write the article for Therapy Today, because I knew when that came out, the name of the tool was fixed. It would be hard to change it after that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'd always typically from 2014 called it the Rainbow Map. But one of the alternatives was to call it a Trigger Map.
Mm-hmm.
And today, I mean, I've been fairly comfortable calling it the Rainbow. I'm still happy with that. But there's so many other things that have got labelled with the rainbow map, but enough people do know that a rainbow is those colours.
Yeah.
I know it's used in many other spheres of our culture today, but hearing you today, it really, sorry, I'm whittling on, but it really has sort of settled for me. The rainbow map, it's the right language. I'm whittling on. It's the right language. It really works for you, doesn't it? And
I'm really comfortable with it in terms of it's really sophisticated. My initial work, where I always had a grading scale of 1 to 7, or an emoji scale of happy to sad.
Yeah.
But what this gave me was the midpoint reference of green, allowing, as we do on the camp, 2 thumbs down to be 2 different things. You can be 2 thumbs down red, and you can be 2 thumbs down purple. They're very, very different feelings, but they're very, very down. They're very, very unpleasant places to be.
Because I mean, again, why I think, because the reason I erred away from a trigger map was I felt that I was pushing something on. If I was training it or communicating it, there was a little bit too much of maybe me in it. Do you know, by labeling it as a trigger map?
Yeah,
I felt that keeping it with the terminology rainbow, it allowed other people to imprint whatever they wanted onto it, which was which you're really affirming and so clearly today. I mean, I don't know, what is it about work with children and young people? It can be so educational to us, can't it?
I think ultimately, coming back to specifically the rainbow map itself, it cannot be said that it's any more powerful than a catalyst for conversation. It's almost that wonderful invitation or opportunity that you can place in front of somebody that's 8 or even somebody that's 80, but place in front of them, and they might just sit back and mull it over and, well, I'm there, and and you go, wow, so what does that mean? And even I'm there anyway. That sees it, that you're in. They're buying into it. They've interpreted it. The conversation that happens after that is, so what do you mean by that? Well, it's instant, and I think there's no terminology, there's no long words. It comes across, Andrew, as something that's been provided for the general public to use, children at schools to use. This hasn't been written for therapists to impress other therapists with long faluting theory. There's a huge element of theory behind it. I'm not discrediting that at all, because it's incredibly powerful for that reason. But its instant point of access it's immediate. It really is, from session 1 to however, and even having it just around in session 10, session 20, there's often a reference to it. There's often a color or an emotion affiliated to the spectrum.
Yeah, that's so lovely to hear. It really, it is right. I mean, there's many lonely hours, doing it. So it's, it's very rewarding, as I say, to hear this. And yeah, no, it's great. I sometimes struggle with that sort of thing a little bit, Yeah. But
what's been really wonderful is how it slots in to become a framework for some of the workshops I do with children, even workshops I'm doing in workplaces now with employees. That I've got this isn't me selling my workshop whatsoever. It's just as an example. But I've got a workshop that's been derived from this, called the Sunday Belly Club. And the Sunday Belly Club is associated with that somatic feeling we all get on a Sunday night and think, oh, bloody hell, work in the morning.
Yeah.
But all of this stuff is, so you got people, delegates, employees, company CEOs buying into this stuff in terms of, wow, well, I'm red. Well, I'm not red. And all of that stuff. So how do you feel when you arrive on Monday? And there's lots of now kind of empathy profiling with the red guys and the purple guys. And there's like the purple clubs that are happening and the red and purple conversations.
Oh, how amazing.
So it's almost just a conversation through color.
I'm aware you've also used the green band, and I put my hand up. And so other therapists, I've really, when I first introduced it, the green band, yeah, the green band was there. Let's talk about what you like to be okay. But I've learned so much from other therapists, and I use the green band in different ways now. It can be a really important band rather than all the other stuff. I
Mhm.
think you've mentioned you use. Could you comment on that? Because I know you use the green band in different ways.
Yeah, for sure. I think as soon as using the sports camp as the reference point here, I think it's really quite brave of a sports camp boss to involve a counsellor involved in his wonderfully experienced sports camps that kids are just there to have fun, and they do in bucket loads, absolute bucket loads. So why can't there be an appreciation of everything that's this way, everything that is thumbs up? There's going to be so many things that are thumbs up. Even that is kind of positive, and that stuff in between. So the celebration of feelings when you are green, and the exploration of things don't have to be rubbish if they're not your favorite. They can be light green or not as green as green.
Okay.
And the only the children run away with those exploration conversations and go, well, it's not the greenest, but it's not the greenest green, but I still wouldn't say it's yellow. But all of a sudden the exploration on a camp experience, what was your greenest activity today? Oh, I love the inflatable slip and slide, or I love the archery, or I love the rocket ball game that they play, or what was but yeah, but I would say that rocket ball was one thumb. Rocket ball was light green, but dodgeball, oh, that was the greenest green. So we really celebrate that.
So what I'm hearing you saying, these children, yeah, they could have just come on this sports camp and just done the sports and had a great time.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is they're coming on the camps and then going, and they're able to then differentiate. Well, outside, before that, they just were the way they were. Angry, not so angry, okay. But there wasn't a sort of discrete, separate thought process that was saying, hey, look, I'm green, or I'm yellow, or I'm orange or red. And what you've seen with group work, you seem to have taken this and enabled a lot of people, young people at one go, to experience a day. And then as they leave the day, when they go home, maybe I'm over egging this, but they're able then to, when they're at home and maybe things aren't going so well, to say, oh, hold on, I'm now here, rather than sort of unconsciously just being there. So it does that.
It does. What we've also looked at is not on site. There is a fluent conversation in gesture and in color. So that's the culture that we've developed, and it sounds really quite simple, but it takes time. Coaches have bought in, coaches get this, coaches have seen the impact of diffusing arguments or experiencing delight. And what we've also done is given the children the ability to take these conversations on site home or to school or with friends.
Whereas, sorry, I'm interrupting. Sorry, carry on.
Whereas a child arriving back from a high five camp now will have a little business card, or will have an A3 poster themselves, and conversations with parents. How was your day today? and it would be wonderful to be that fly in the wall when they say, actually, my day was green, and the parent go, what do you mean green? And then that conversation that then happens in that house is, well, we use colors to describe how we've had such a good day, or how things haven't been so great. And then all of a sudden there's a language that's being used at home by non-therapists, by members of the public, by children and parents and children and teachers.
So you've embedded a psychoeducational, quite a strong psychoeducational element in these workshops, without really there being any sense that here's the thalamus, here's the amygdala, this is how it connects with the heart. It's almost invisible. I mean, it's not invisible in a nasty way. You're not trying to slip them some message, but you're working and engaging them in useful psychotherapy, psychoeducation.
Yeah. I and
but without landing them with complexity, or it's just there for them to engage with or not. And
totally, it's a floated notion, and I think that's the thing when the opportunity is presented, and the situation arises for it to be used, a child using a color at an accurate point in time is just the connection that they need to go, bloody hell, this does what I can explain to somebody that I'm not feeling so great, or I've just described to somebody that couldn't have been better for me.
And are you getting any feedback coming in from afterwards or from children saying that it is translating in the way you're thinking into home life or into parts of their lives?
Yeah, for sure. And in very contracted and confidential ways during the check-in, you can't stop children from chirping in with, "Oh, that's my brother," or, "Oh my goodness, that's my dad," or "That's
Yeah.
oh, my mum's like that." Sometimes, and you're careful with those conversations go, but already they're applying the concept to their environment, and conversations that then go home would be very interesting to get feedback from. We do parent Zooms. So I as part of the summer, I will provide a parent Zoom just explaining colours to parents and how they can act as wonderful conversations with grumpy teenagers that won't come out of their room, or to, oh my goodness, don't know whether to say anything or not. This in a household can be very, very simple.
So it's being used sort of in a family therapy setting in a way.
Yeah.
But I mean, one of the reasons I developed it first on, because I first was using it in my couple therapy practice, which was the main thing I was doing. I mean, it's now more widely used individually, but that's just because of the balance of psychotherapy work out there. There's more people experiencing individual psychotherapy than couple psychotherapy. But one of the big reasons was if you could tap in and notice your own interacting system, and how automatic it can be and how powerful it can be, driving you to say and do things that once you've gone back to green, you think, oh God, well, why did that happen? One of the reasons was if you can pick that up with your own information and prove it to yourself with your own information, then there's maybe not such a big job to become aware that other people might be working like that as well. Like when what you're saying, when mum or dad or in the couple work, the partner is behaving in a really unpleasant or unacceptable way, maybe they also are being driven by their automatic survival system, that's driving them to behave in a way that's maybe not very helpful to the relationship or the family. And in that is awareness, and maybe in that is a bit of forgiveness or understanding, or a capacity to make a choice about how maybe you're going to react to them.
100%.
So is that what I'm hearing a little bit?
Yeah, because I think at that slightly deeper level, the conversations that then ensue from color identification is what is that emotion, and then what would be helpful. What would be useful when you experience that somatic feeling? So if you get your achy jaw or your tingly head or your tightness in the chest, what's helpful then? What's helpful for you? How can you explain to somebody that that's what you need? My initial throws as a junior teacher was that exit cards just used to make my toes curl. I just think, oh no, there's no resilience. You've just shown the card and you're gone. All of this stuff has reversed all of that. And it just makes that exit card very, very useful when it's used properly. The resilience comes with that kid that's been asked to do a maths question that he doesn't want to do. And he gets his exit card out and he's got, oh no, that's just not what you need to be doing. The opposite to that is the conversation with a child that didn't have to leave maths because he had the laminated exit card in his pocket and just felt it saying, right, I can go if I need to. Right, okay, I don't need to go. I'm going to stick in here. And they see it through. And that ability to latch on the physical feeling with the color and also the thoughts and the emotions, it makes such a connective experience with a tough question in maths. Why do I need to go to red and bolt it? I don't need to. I can feel uncomfortable. I can feel challenged, but actually I've got this. And all of a sudden, those feedback stories are just immense.
Well, to me, what I hear you talking about, I think about it on a scale from compulsion to agency. At one end, the one that just flicks is imbued with compulsion,
Yeah,
and the one that's starting to put stuff together, their experience of themselves, the somatic experience, they're starting to experience more agency in their lives,
yeah,
more capacity to choose,
yeah.
which is just music to my ears.
That's the lifelong skill, and not once have we mentioned hypothalamus. Not once have we mentioned. I took me years to be able to say that properly. Just hippopotamus came out more than 4 times, but absolutely, and it because it's just instant point of access. I've got an 8-year-old son, and it's not as if they are rammed down the throat with colours, etc. But we've noticed, and it's referred to, etc., etc. One of the wonderful things that I had with my 8-year-old son, we went to a Madness concert. It was my favourite band, and I'm delighted that he quite likes them as well. And off we went. We listened to the concert, live music, and then we came back, which is lovely. So he's talked about it, and then months after the concert, a song came on in the van, and he said, "Dad, I'm going to cry." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because that song's just taken me right back to the concert, and I had such a lovely time that I just want to cry." And we had a moment in the van, and it was all very, very lovely. But involved with this sorts of work, when that somatic emotion is connected with something similar, that's such an amazing response.
Yes.
And sometimes they're very, very helpful. But in the work that we do, sometimes it's very, very unhelpful. But the awareness of it gives you half a chance to go, right, it was helpful, stick with it. That's unhelpful. What can we do instead? And it's just all of those little snapshot interviews are amazing.
I know you use the rainbow map in other areas, but maybe we'll have to do another session to come back to that. If you'd like to do that. So anything else you want to say before we tie up? Any other reflections, any thoughts you would like to share with people who are tuning into this reflection session?
Yeah, for sure. I was told many times throughout my studies to try and gain as many tools to put into your eclectic integrative toolbox as you possibly can. And I think that this is just a prime example of how this is now my go-to spanner. It's in my toolbox. Other stuff that I used to go to is probably getting a bit dusty, or stuff that I don't go to as much, but it's still in there to rummage around for. But this at the moment, in terms of the impact I'm seeing it have, in terms of the wonderful progress and shifts and change that people are making just simply by being aware. And then all of a sudden the cause and effect can start to come in at that other layer. But as an instant point of reference, people are accessing this very, very quickly, and all of a sudden forming conversations way down the line with specific viewpoints to colors. It's been incredibly powerful. It really has been.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much. And thank you for spending time with me and with anyone else who's going to tune into this today. Because I think learning from each other's practice is, as I've said in some of these other sessions, probably one of the most untapped sources of training and improvement that maybe we're missing out in our profession. So you've been so open and covered so many things. I really appreciate it. I know you're busy. So thank you so much for sharing, your reflections with us today, with me and us today. So thank you, Matt.
No, thanks for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. If this and other modules have been interesting and useful for you, perhaps I could ask you to share a link to the website with friends and colleagues who might also benefit from this free resource. Maybe you could also put a link out on any social media you might use. That would be very helpful. For those of you watching this for your ongoing training, please remember you can go back to the launch page for this module and request a training certificate free of charge. You can also see a list of related modules on the website should you wish to know more about the Rainbow Map, other tools and the concepts on which they're based. If you are If you and 10 or more friends and colleagues want to dig deeper into any aspect of this or other modules on the website, then you can book a free Zoom-based question and answer reflection session to suit you. Thank you for spending your time with us today.